Hello everyone, my name is Romina Bermeo and my partner is Brito. Today we are going to explain about our paper, Technological Revolution in Relationships and the Laboratory. Our paper are divided in 5 steps. The first we have our introduction, objectives, methodology, results and conclusions. So the question is, why we decided to develop this paper? First, we have the video. In the time, technological revolution changed the way to develop new knowledge. The way of do science, the way of improve how to share and share information. So, so as we know, technology improved the way of doing science and doing technology. It impacts the field of science communication. In the science communication, we have different benefits and risks. The main benefit that we have is that it improves the way of communicate, improve the way of search and share information, and also develop programs like software. But the thing that we don't want to see is the risk, the problems that technology has with them. For example, if they make the work, make people lazy, make people depend, but for that purpose, we have this picture. And now it's a typical family where technology continues to improve the communication. The mom is in Facebook and her dad is talking with the research. Yes, technology improved the way of communicate. So for a lot of things, a lot of facts, we want to investigate at this part and answer a question. Does technology really improve the way researchers do the research? And if yes, can we improve? Can we develop new programs to communicate and share information? So the main point of our paper is analyze the pros and cons about technology in the time to development a project, in the time to use technology to communicate with a partner and international collaborator. The first step for our paper was divided in 3 parts: identification, interviews, and research session. The principal tool that we used was ethnography. Ethnography is a social science that studies the behavior of people. How people interact with their computer is the main point that we want to investigate. Testing is a software that used to analyze in a qualitative way the information recollected, and computers, cameras, voice recorders to recollect information or interview. The first step that we did was the identification. We select 4 researchers from the United. It was at random because we are only focused in the technology, not in the main research. The second part, the interviews. The first interview helped us to recognize the topic of their paper, and the second part to analyze how technology revolution helped before and after their project. So we have an example from a testing.
For what purpose and how do you use technology in your investigation and project?
Basically computer. In my area I need a computer, so it's the main resource for programming and developing the mathematical models. And for communication, as I told you before, Skype and stuff like that.
As we can hear in that part, the main thing that they used technology was for communicate, for developing programs, so use mainly the computer. In the second interview, from another researcher.
Before a certain point in time, that technology was just beginning, and how technology is now how we benefit with the technological revolution that is taking with the field. Let's say creating new
Technology really helps you answer can you find your questions better, so to be able to answer it in a way that you wouldn't do it without, saving and dealing
In that part, the researcher explains how in the area of biology they worked before with their technology before not have them. But now, with the new technology, they can develop a new projects to investigate the chromosomes, the ADN, and more aspects of science. So what? With that, the third part, with the interviews we collected, we can take information about to develop a research session. In the research session, we use mainly ethnography. It's an observational part of our work. In that part, we use the field notes. In the field notes, we have time, notes, comments, and code. We take notes about every movement and every step that the researchers developing in the research session. So, with all of these things, the only thing that we want to develop is that really this technology impulses the way our researchers do their research. And now my partner are going to explain with our results that we can answer that question.
Okay. For the interviews part, this gave us a quantitative side of the information. Quantitative because the questions that we ask, we can actually put in tables and we can see what the researchers preferred and what they didn't prefer to do. And the research session is a qualitative side of the data because we actually got to sit down and see a researcher actually do some of his work for some time. We didn't always get to see everything because sometimes the researcher preferred to keep some parts of his research a bit more private. Okay. For this part, we focused on 3 main points of interest. First is how technology influenced and how the researcher communicated and how he shared information. Also, how he distributed his time using technology during his research and when he didn't. Okay, so for the first part, for the influence of technology, we found that 3 main points were the most important. The first one being that it was how easy it was, if they had any international collaborators, if they had a necessity of technology, if technology was very important for them, and if the technological revolution gave them any benefits. So, for the first part of the graph, if they work with international collaborators, all researchers said that yes, they did to a certain extent. The second part shows that if the technology is a fundamental part of their investigation, they said that all researchers are responding in the affirmative. And the final part, if the technological revolution gave them any benefits. There was a kind of interesting result that we obtained here because the researcher 1 said that he or she didn't really always feel the benefit of the technological revolution. He mentioned that this was mainly because that sometimes it was very expensive to upgrade to a new type of technology, and that it wasn't always the best thing if the old technology was still working to upgrade to a new one if they had to pay huge amounts of money. Okay, so for the next part is the preferential factors in communication, how researchers prefer to communicate. So we've noticed 3 main things that they prefer to have. To have dynamic meetings, that means that you can be talking and have more than one person talking at a time, and have conferences not with just 2 people, with more than 2 people. If the answer time is low and that it was cost efficient. So imagine that you can talk to more than one person at a time. Or imagine you can have a meeting just like we're having here, but without even going to the place where the researcher is and just talking for 2 or 3 people at a time and having a meeting about a conference. This helped a lot when they wanted to clarify a project, to clarify a research theme. So the bar in blue shows that researchers mainly prefer Skype. This was the predominant trend for all the researchers. Next, the bar in orange is email, which 3 out of the 4 researchers use, but not always. The bar in gray is a direct phone call, which wasn't very cost efficient because sometimes talking with their international collaborators, it was very expensive, so they didn't really prefer to use this. And the final bar in yellow, which is the only researcher 3 preferred to use, was personal communication. This meant that the researcher actually went and gave their information personally to wherever his or her international collaborator was. Now, for the last part, for sharing information, we identified 4 parts, 4 main themes that the researchers preferred. That the methods that they used to share information was popular, was that if it was fast to share, it was easy to use, and if it was relatively secure. Now, the bar in blue shows Dropbox or other cloud services, which only 3 out of 4 researchers use, but not all the time. The bar in orange is email, which half the researchers mainly prefer to use. they mentioned that this was because they didn't have huge amounts of information to actually share. So they didn't actually need to have a type of Dropbox or to have a cloud service. They could just send their essential information through an email. And the bar in gray is a database, which is a more private form of sharing information, and only researchers prefer to use this information. Now, you guys might think that probably they don't have any files at hand, that they probably don't have anything. That's because everything you think is in the cloud or is now digitalized. So now we don't have to send mails through a pigeon or through any program. Okay, now for the research session, we mostly focused on how the researchers distributed their time sharing information or working. So, for the first part, we have this photo, which is researcher one when he's doing a Skype call, trying to clarify a part of his project and clarifying what work he has to do for his next mathematical model. This is another photo of him during the Skype call, and next we have the field notes that we had during this research session. Now, this is another part of another research session that we did. This is a professor changing calculations that he had during from an email sent to him from his international collaborator. He's changing some information so he can make changes to his model. So, for the next part is, this is just another field note from this research session that we did. And then finally, we have a short summary of our presentation. So the technological revolution mainly influenced in the way researchers needed technology, how they communicated with their international collaborators, and if the technology had any benefits and limits. The technological revolution also talked about how they communicate, if they can have dynamic meetings, if their answer time could be the shortest possible, and if it was cost efficient. And finally, the way they shared communication, that the researchers preferred to have something that was fast, easy to use. It was popular because so everybody can know what service they were using, and if it was secure. Now, for a conclusion, to answer our question that we planted, does the technological revolution benefit the way researchers do research? We can say that yes, it does benefit the way researchers do research. It actually helps them advance in the research, but it doesn't always benefit everyone in the same way. As we mentioned before, that researcher one didn't always feel the benefit of the research because it was very expensive to upgrade to a new type of technology. So, the limits about this research is that it was only done here in Tech, and we can't generalize that these same results we can encounter in any other part of the world. So, for future investigation, future research, we propose to have to go to other universities and do the same type of research, so we can see if the information that we have or that we collected can correlate to the new information. So we can actually try to now generalize about the influence of technological revolution. So as a final question, a final thought, we can say that the technology right now in our lives is everywhere. We have, for this presentation, we have technology for your phones that most people are using. So what can we say about technology? Technology is a very good tool, but does it always benefit us? No.
Thank you.
How you ensure to be objective when you make your ethnography? How to avoid when you make ethnography to be biased and to don't have partial data?
You mean like if we actually knew the professor and try to change? We chose professors that we didn't really know, so we can actually not focus if they weren't doing any work, or if they weren't doing anything, we can just focus on his work. So we chose mainly researchers that we didn't know, we didn't have classes with.
You need to open the debate session.
Okay. what could be the limits with regard to the situation of technology used in investigations and all this stuff?
What are the limits to technology and investigation? The technology is limited to depending on the field. Let's say one researcher mentioned that this researcher works in the field of biology. This researcher mentioned that technology didn't always make her calculations more precise, but it did help them have the calculations faster. So the limit would be that technology can return results to a limit of being faster, to a fast limit, but it can't be more precise.
And for example, in the other part, our researchers say that their technology limits the spreads. They made the way when they communicate. They want to spread their ideas with a presentation or with a lot of things, but with the technology, sometimes a new software, there is the main technology that they use is Skype, and we know Skype sometimes can begin to fail and there are problems for them.
I don't
Sir. No. If you need to open the debate session if some student has something to them. For example, do you have any question for them? It's important. It's your role.
Okay, he's like a moderator.
And William and Owen.
Well, any other questions that you can ask?
Question. How do you know that this technology you have is useful and people can be sure that if you use this, it's going to work? How do you know that technology is useful? I mean, if you develop a kind of technology, a kind of software that people is using, but maybe they don't use it well, how do you know this is a success? It works?
Well, technology, or most instruments that we have now, and even technology, some instruments aren't used for their original purpose. Some instruments are mainly molded by the use that we give them. So let's say technology isn't useful for us right now, but in the future, someone else can find a use for it, can make that technology useful for for a type of investigation, type of research. So even if the technology, that type of technology isn't useful now, it can be in the future.
And it's one of the reasons that we want to develop that project, to answer that question, to answer your question about that, is technology useful for research science?
Leandro, what do you think about it?
And it's very important that the chair, for example, William, Andres, and Naomi, need to check the time for the talk and for the debate session. We have 5 minutes. Now we have 20 seconds.
It doesn't give me time, it's not fair. Should I keep going anyway?
Well, I think there are like two sides of that coin, because you say technology impulse the way researchers do the research, I mean that's the conclusion. But in some aspects you may say that actually drags it down, because for example, Yasha, if you don't have the technologies, you don't have the laboratories to do science, you may fall behind with the rest of the world they have.
This was the main reason why we asked them if they have any international collaborators, to see if they can supplement this lack of technology here in Yacha. So since most of them mentioned that they worked with research with international collaborators to an extent, so they can actually fill the lack of technology, and so that this way they won't fall behind.
Okay, thank you.